Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is David Boy, and we're here to look at crowdsourcing innovation. So, our key learning objectives today is to first understand what innovation is all about and the innovation process. We would also be looking at the growth and definition of crowdsourcing, how it has developed, why it is so important during the innovation process, the different components, the crowdsourcing innovation process in terms of how it generally works and how it can also be implemented during the ideation stage. And then we summarize our lecture today to find out what we have learned. So when you think about innovation, there are several innovations that exist in our time. Think about the iPhone, Dyson Technologies, PlayStation. In general, innovation is generally much more about you thinking up an idea into a concept and then it going through a process of invention in order to understand how it will work, this prototype, the conceptualization of it, and in general, innovation can be completed based on its commercialization into the market. Now, for you to be able to arrive at some innovation, you need to be able to ensure that your idea has gone through a series of steps or stages. So this is a general stage gate process which involves idea generation, you developing a business case for it, developing the idea into a concept for testing and validation, and then you finalizing and conceptualizing or commercializing that product into the market. um, Due to the shift in our era at the moment, you can see that there is a much great need for users to be involved during the innovation process. Now, let's look at what crowdsourcing is all about. Crowdsourcing is generally just an idea or can be seen as the use of information technology in order for you to achieve certain tasks to be done by both human and non-human actors in much of an open call. If you think about the innovation process, we have seen a shift from a more closed innovation model to an open innovation model, which allows many organizations to be able to collaborate and work with different players within an environment. And this essentially is how crowdsourcing can be integrated. Thinking about the concept of outsourcing, you can see many organizations practicing collaboration or working with third-party organizations to ensure that they are adding some sort of value which they are not expert in. And crowdsourcing helps organizations to do this, but it doesn't just limit it to just third-party organizations. It also opens the avenue for many other players or many other actors to ensure tasks are being done. Different examples of crowdsourcing can be exist, but majorly the tasks you can use crowdsourcing for are human censorship, human intelligence, funding, innovation, and generally scientific endeavors such as knowledge discovery. Now, let's look at how crowdsourcing has developed over the years. The conceptualization of it only came about in 2006, but it has been in existence since 1714, when the idea of how to navigate the seas was at large. A great competition was enforced around that time, and many people suggested ideas in order for us to come about with a good navigation system to ensure that ships can able to navigate seas around that time. Many other examples, such as Toyota calling people to design their logo in 1936, and in 1955, the design of the Sydney Theatre would ensure that we are able to see that great design in Australia. Now, in 2001, you can see the conceptualization of crowdsourcing in Wikipedia, but the great idea or the concept wasn't really defined up until 2006 when Howie published a paper on the conceptualization of it. And of recent times, many organizations have been able to implement this, such as BMW, Fiat, and also Starbucks. In recent times, due to the pandemic, it also being used to combat the issue of coronavirus in order for us to be able to design good equipment and ensure that we're able to use and survive these issues. Okay, so with that being said, why is crowdsourcing important? You think about the shift from a closed innovation to a more open innovation model. This has been encouraged by the drive towards involvement of users and general stakeholders during the entire process, which adds value. The general shift towards customization has also led to the idea of this being of great value. And then you can also think of we as consumers also having tacit knowledge in order to apply and contribute to during the making of different innovations. Last but not least, is also of great value for the value chain in order for us to have cross-functional teams to ensure that different ideas are coming together to add value. In general, the shift to ideas such as user innovation, open innovation, and open source allows for the concept of crowdsourcing to come into play. Now, when we now look at crowdsourcing, and as we have understood this, you can now think of the different components of crowdsourcing. It definitely involves four different aspects, which is the task, a crowdsourcer, and generally ensuring that these tasks can be done through a medium, which is the crowdsourcing platform. Now, a crowd can generally be any employee, customers, or selective group of people who have expertise on a task. The crowdsourcer can be an individual, organization, or institution which ensures the task needs to be done. The task can range from many menial tasks to more complex opportunities, but some can be data entry, idea contribution, finance contribution, and product testing. Popular platforms that exist today are Innocentive, IACA, and even Amazon Mechanical Turk. And for crowdfunding, you can think of Kickstarter, which is a popular name for contributing or getting finance for your ideas. All right. And with that being said, we now need to understand the crowdsourcing process. In general, if you're trying to achieve any task, you can think of this of you defining or finding a need for an actual problem. And this is what starts off any crowdsourcing process. When you've identified a problem that needs to be solved, it goes through a series of 5 steps of preliminary activities and awareness, preparation and idea generation or contribution generation, executing this process, evaluation and maturization, and then selection and implementation in order for you to achieve a certain outcome. And what goes on during this entire processes of 5 stages? In the preliminary activities, you have identified a problem and then you need to be able to do some research and define your expected outcome during the entire process. Then you move on to, defining a criteria and getting clear objectives of what needs to be achieved. And then you set up a brief which now needs to be executed through an approach of maybe a contest or some workshop or, getting some idea capture processes or in place. Then when you're able to gather contributions during the sessions, you are now able to evaluate these contributions based on certain metrics of choice ranking, cluster validation, voting approaches, giving some fake simulated spending to ensure that people can actually use their real money to contribute to such an idea. Through this process, you achieve some purposive selection of that contribution, and then you're able to measure whether this entire process was good or feasible based on the engagement and participation rate in order for you to now ensure that your outcome is feasible and it would get a good return on investment. And with that being said, you are able to achieve some sort of outcome because it has gone through the 5 different steps and an outcome is arrived at. Very great process. And this is particularly used in different spheres of our lives, which ensure that we are getting things done. A great example of this is this video all about reCAPTCHA, who is a great example of applying crowdsourcing in our daily lives to data entry and helping transcription of digital documents. I encourage you all to watch this video to get an idea of what it's about and how it can or has been applied to simple tasks to even more complex tasks. But now let's look at complex aspects which crowdsourcing is actually being used, and this is where we're looking at crowdsourcing for innovation. And in particular, we're looking at the ideation stage of crowdsourcing, which is also called idea crowdsourcing. Now, for crowdsourcing to be used, you think about an open innovation model where you generate ideas, you get people to contribute the ideas from several members, and it goes through a series of steps of you being selective and ensuring people are participating. But then with those contributions and the expected outcome, you need certain criteria by organizations to allow this to slide. Some criteria that exist are the feasibility of the idea to the organization, the priorities of that organization, its alignment to the organization, and generally the competences and capabilities of the organizations in terms of resources in order for it to achieve this. Based on all these, a certain target will be reached, and it will be able to actually satisfy it being moved to the other stage of development and design and prototyping into an actual concept. And so when this has been done, you are able to utilize crowdsourcing for an idea, and it is shown to be a powerful source for companies to actually find innovative ideas which will actually meet customer desires. It is it also has the ability to reduce cost, by using crowdsourcing and getting users involved during the process. You are able to understand and maintain a relationship with your consumers. You also, because of the shift towards a growing demand of users trying to involve themselves during an entire new idea or innovation process, it is a good medium for for organizations in general as well, to be able to accumulate and utilize the tacit knowledge which is ingrained in every human in order for it to complement the innovation process. All right, and those are the key aspects we have learned today to ensure that we are aware of what is going on in the collaborative space. So I have a take-home assignment for us to read, and this is just an article that utilized or has seen crowdsourcing being used in a stage gate approach for Fiat Mile. I encourage us to read this, and the key question here is to understand what lessons you can learn from this case in order to see how crowdsourcing is used for the development of an entire car. All right. And with that being said, we have come to the end of the lecture. Next week, we'll be looking at crowdsourcing for innovation, and then we'll be seeing how crowdsourcing should be used or is used for product concept, design, and development of new ideas. All right. Bye for now. Thank you very much for attending, and it was a pleasure speaking with you. Have a good one. See you soon.